Hey everyone, this is Cassie Green, Content Director of Apparelist and Editor at Printing United Alliance.
And this is Christine Shreve, founder of the Women in Garment Decoration Facebook group.
And you're listening to Threads of Change, a new kind of discussion for the printing industry.
It's time to talk about how we can inspire change. Our conversations will feature topics such as how we can build a more diverse environment at trade shows, what resources are needed to support underrepresented communities, and more.
We might be tackling some tough topics, but we're hoping you'll join us on this journey to be the change we want to see in the industry.
Come along with us. The next episode starts right now. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Threads of Change. I am so excited. When I was planning who I wanted to have on this podcast, she was one of the names at the top of the list. Her name is Jenna Quaranta. You may know her as JQ. Everybody does. And she's a powerhouse salesperson. She's an amazing mother. She's a wonderful wife. She's a all-around amazing, inspiring person. And I'm so excited that we get to talk to her today. I'm just so excited. That's all. I'm just really excited.
Oh man, thank you for having me. It's good to be with you again. And Cassie, this is so cool to be here. And thank you for the intro. That was like really nice. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I don't say stuff I don't mean. And I said to you again before we started recording that, I've been watching you and I've known you for a while now, peripherally. I mean, we don't hang out a lot or anything, but I've known you and the things that you've been doing and, getting to watch you keynote things and getting to see you speak in front of, rooms full of people and all this stuff. I'm like, dang, woman, go.
So grateful. I'm grateful for all the opportunities that have come my way. And like I mentioned to you, it's, I've worked really hard to earn all those opportunities. So thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah.
You're welcome. But I think you said something, and this is not on our list of questions, but you said it, so I'm jumping in. One of the things that you said before we started recording was that, you understand that you earned all this stuff, but it's hard and you worked for it, but it's hard sometimes to acknowledge it or kind of live in it a little bit. And I think a lot of women have that. And I want to go there for just a minute because I know imposter syndrome is, and I hate that word. I don't love that word, but I don't love that phrase rather. But I think it's tough sometimes to own your own. And again, another word I really hate, but own your own power or own your own ability. And I want to just unpack that for a minute. And I'm going to ask you the question where you're going to be like, really? Seriously? But where do you think that comes from? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Is it like the fear of the unknown, maybe? Is it like
That's possible.
for me, that's what it is. And full disclosure, I mean, we're gonna unpack a lot of stuff today. That's something I'm working on in my own with my own therapist and EMDR and something I'm still healing after, the mass shooting that I went through. It's been X amount of years and I'm still going through PTSD and anxiety healing. And I've realized that part of my imposter syndrome is the fear of the unknown. I have an attachment to yes. Sometimes I'd rather just think it's a yes and daydream a little bit. So I'm in my own way of asking hard invasive questions when I need to. So I think for me it's just maybe the fear of the unknown and fear of rejection and
Interesting. And maybe
I love that because
maybe fear of like an experience too, like all experiences we have, regardless of whether they're positive or negative, impact us in some way. So I wonder if that can come from that direction too. You know what I mean?
I think so. And that's like what I'm working on in my own life right now, is just how to navigate the fear of the unknown and just move forward and, live each day to the fullest. That's something that I struggle with myself. So yeah, for me, it's
well,
probably
and
that.
trauma response is a big thing too. I think if you've lived through trauma and you've experienced uncertainty or fear or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
sometimes there's always that little, and I know some of the things I've been through, there's a little bit of, I made it through and other people didn't.
Yep.
And,
Survivor's guilt.
that's, and the didn't could be they just didn't prosper or they didn't, but I survived it and they didn't come out as well. And I
Absolutely.
think there's that too, a little bit. Why them and, why me and not them?
Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Survivor's guilt. Yeah.
Yeah. Since we're on this subject, I do want to circle around to this because I did tell you I wanted to ask you about this because I cheered when I saw this post. Your amazing wife, who I've already openly admitted I have kind of a crush on because I think she's just amazing. She took you back to Vegas to see a Garth Brooks concert. And for those people who may not know JQ's history, short version, there was a mass shooting in Vegas and JQ was there. And that's her story to tell. And we're not going to go into it here, but you went back and you said in your post you thought you never would.
Yeah.
So, what was the thought process when you said, yes, I'll do it?
Well, let me just start with my wife is the boss and she told me we're going. So I was like, I guess we're going. And so that's really what happened is Garth Brooks is her was her bucket list. She grew up from Texas, moved to Texas about 4 years ago, and Garth Brooks was a staple in her childhood. And she grew up traveling with her grandfather who was actually a trucker, and she would play Garth Brooks in the back of that truck across driving across the country, and that's what
Oh,
brought her comfort. And so she had never seen Garth Brooks, and that was her dream, and he was always so expensive, and she told herself one day I'm going to buy tickets to go see him. And he was here in Vegas, and he had his what do you call it where you stay for a couple years
he had
in
a
Residency.
Vegas.
residency.
Thank
Residency.
you. He had that going on, and she was stalling on buying tickets because she knew that I probably wouldn't go back. And she finally just said, it's his last weekend. We're going. I have to see him. She booked the hotel. And I said, okay. I wasn't going to say no. No, I knew that was her dream. I was glad it wasn't with a large group. I was glad there was no hoopla around it. So for me, it was exciting. Out of the gates, I felt excited to go tackle it. I had no intention of the next day saying, hey, on the way home, can we stop by the Jason Aldean's new location? I wasn't even going to ask her to do that. I was kind of hiding that because I didn't know if I should do that by myself or I didn't really know. I didn't bring it up. So going to the concert was incredible. It was the best concert experience I've ever had, mainly because it was a phone free zone. So for me, I felt safer out of the gates. I felt like people were really engaged with the music and each other. It was pretty amazing. And leaving, I felt great. Walking the strip, I felt great. Getting back to the hotel, I felt great. And it was the next morning that we were packing up to get home. And I said, hey, do you want to cancel the brunch reservations that we do have and maybe go check out the Jason Aldean location? It's brand new and the menu looks pretty good. And I wouldn't mind checking out like the Route 91 wall. And she right away was like, let's go. And we went and I kind of took off on my own. Actually, I walked into the restaurant on my own on purpose. I didn't know how I was going to react. And I kind of took off, and there's 3 levels to it. And I sort of knew that the wall was on the second level, so I kind of ditched her, and I walked upstairs, and I needed to see the wall on my own. I just needed to do it on my own, if that makes sense. Yeah, that was tough. Took a photo. That was tough. We sat down. We ordered a beer. We had lunch. And I think that was tough, just sitting there and looking at the wall and the photos. That was pretty tough. And I think that I realized, like, holy shit, I did it. Like, I literally came back to Vegas for a concert. I would have never planned this in my life. I would have never said to any of my friends or to Chandel, hey, wife, I'd love to go to Vegas for a concert. I would have never said that. And she really wouldn't have either. But it was Garth Brooks, you know? And so I'm so grateful that she forced that on me. She forced me to grow. And I'm glad that I was vocal and that we went to the location and had lunch. And I got that out of my system. I needed to see it. And I actually have decided that I would love to throw the first ever field training alumni event at Jason Aldean's bar. I've already contacted them. It just makes sense that when I throw my next event, it just makes sense that I do it there, you know? So
Yeah.
all in all, it was an amazing trip and it forced me to grow. So
Well, I think there's so much to unpack out of that story, but the one thing that really gets me, I think, the most is how empowering it is to face up to the trauma and go, okay, this didn't break me, this didn't take me down, you know? I love
yep.
that. I really love that a lot. I
Thank you.
think that's
Yeah. And I just needed to be like I coach over 60 people a week. So it's kind of like I have to keep growing too, you know? So I have to be the
Mhm.
best version of myself for them. So I had to kind of go through it, you know?
Well, I appreciate that. I know that wasn't in our list of questions, but it was in the back of my mind that if I got a chance, I wanted to ask about that because that to me was a very powerful moment. Good to know.
Yeah,
But I
so
think
I'm glad we talked about it. But yeah.
I think that kind of goes with, something Christine had when she and I were talking about planning this episode and getting kind of a backstory is like, how do we as women particularly, but just anyone really use experiences to shape who we are in both our personal and professional lives? What are these things that sort of come in and it's interesting to hear you tell the story because you said it was something you wouldn't necessarily have planned out specifically for this, and then it ended up coming to be in this very empowering, impactful way to you. And now you look at it as like, hey, if I'm going to coach people, it's going to help me grow. It helped you grow personally, it helped you grow professionally. And I think that kind of goes into what Christine and I are talking about is like, using these things and how do they shape us as people, and how do our stories impact others too, which is
Yeah, yeah, and I'm grateful for every situation, right? And it made me a better parent, a better sister, even a better daughter, right? Again, I coach people, I give myself on a daily basis to others, and some of these people I don't even know, right? And
Mhm.
I had to do this. I have to keep healing.
I am curious about that. Not to like totally change direct. Let's do a
Yeah,
total 180. I am curious about that. You said it kind of made you a better parent. Talk to me a little bit about that because as I was kind of getting to know you through your various accounts and reading your stories through your posts and whatnot, I love the fact that you're a working mom. You're raising two daughters in this world while kicking ass at your job. What is that experience like for you? How do you handle being a working parent and making sure like you're your best self for your daughters?
yeah, I love that. I work out every day, throw weights around. There's that. I have a really good setup. I'm very blessed. Chandel and I, we co-parent with two other folks. Our daughters both have co-parents on the other side, and they're wonderful people. In fact, Lily has a stepmom and on her side as well. And so there's a lot of folks that are here to support Lily and Grace. Every other weekend, our kids are with their other families, and so it's kind of neat. Chandel and I kind of have that time to get outside and connect with each other, and we do a lot of reading. I was in the fitness industry for well over 10 years before I got into promo. And during that time, I was a cancer exercise specialist, a mobility coach, and all these things. And so I've brought that into my sales lifestyle, which is how I've created my own sales methodology and lifestyle field sales method. That's why I say my sales method is a lifestyle, right? Take care of yourself and focus on building relationships and being authentic and things like that. But for me, I mean, I just focus on my work life balance. Like I said, I coach a lot of people a week. And if I don't get the right sleep, if I don't eat clean, if I don't work out, if I don't have the right relationships and support in my life and in my immediate circle, there's no way this would all be happening. So for me, I lean into Lily's dad and her stepmom over there, and Kim, my daughter's other mom, and so I'm very lucky to have that set up, and because of that, I think all of us probably have a pretty good work-life balance. So, yeah.
That's admirable,
It
but that's
literally takes the
hard.
village.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I can't take credit. I mean, we all work as a team. We all have jobs, we all travel, and so we all work as a team, but I'd say the hardest part for me being like it not in this industry, just in sales in general is sometimes the travel. It's affected my kid a little bit sometimes. Definitely long trips, but other than that, like I know that I'm here for a higher purpose to help others, and that does mean travel, and that does mean speaking engagements. And my family understands that's my goal is to touch as many sales reps as possible. So
Mhm.
they get it. Yeah.
Well, I gotta ask, is Grace still dancing?
Oh yes.
All right.
Yes. There is, I know, and I wish I could say what it is, but she is working on the raddest project right now. And when I'm allowed to share it with the world, I will personally send you a LinkedIn message and say, here, you guys,
Awesome.
it's incredible. So I'm very proud of her. She's crushing it right now. Yeah.
I was curious about that because I haven't seen much on any of your socials about what she's doing, and I thought, well, she's either doing something like super secret and you
Yeah.
can't tell anybody. I've seen bits and pieces of what Grace can do, and she's amazing. So
I'm so proud of her.
anyway, yeah, as you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very, very talented. But I want to circle back to something else you were talking about because we have a sales expert on the show. We cannot neglect to get some sales wisdom. This is the thing that I want to do. But one of the things that I want to talk about is something that I thought of when I first thought about having you on the show, which is the tendency of some salespeople to have I don't know, an ideal customer, a customer type, a stereotype, maybe, whatever it is. I've seen this a lot at trade shows where a certain person comes into the booth and maybe they aren't wearing the right clothes, or maybe they're not the right gender, or whatever it is. And you can just see who's ever in the booth go, yep, you're not it. And they're gone. And I want to talk to you about, I guess, two things. Number one, is that just being a lazy salesperson, or is there more behind it than that? And how do you combat that?
Yeah. All right. Big question. Let's
I
unpack that.
know. We
We
don't
said
ask
we
the
were good to
whimsical,
unpacking
boring
here.
questions.
Let's unpack. Yeah. So if it's cool, I'll speak to both sides, right? Like my time on the supplier side, if that's cool, and then my time on
Go
the
for
distributor side and how I kind of fought that, I guess. On the supplier side, I see it all the time in our industry, actually. Some sales reps ignore potential customers because they don't fit the mold of what they're
it. Mm,
expecting a big customer or a big buyer to look like. I see it all the time. It's wild to me. And it's a huge miss. It's a huge miss, right? A lot of money being left on the table. I've wondered, I don't know if there's like a generational component to that. I don't know.
mm,
Like I'm, but I'm trying to exhaust all like thoughts here. Um, I think sometimes customers in our industry are being unintentionally overlooked because maybe there's some sales reps chasing like the modern aesthetics or what they think the big flashy digital buyers are doing. I'm not sure,
mm,
right? But I see it. I hope that makes sense. I do see it.
mhm,
But those customers, the ones that are being overlooked, those the ones with the experience, those the ones with the long-standing program potential. I see it all the time. So I'll tell you, I flew under the radar as a supplier and I focused on the folks that were being overlooked because you're absolutely
mm,
correct. I focused on, there's a lot of like tech savvy folks in this industry, and those are the ones being hunted on, and it's because they want the pop up stores, the online stores, the digital this, it's interesting. But for me, I was asking questions out of the gate to anyone and everyone just to gauge your investment in
mm,
me. And if you were invested in me, I was like in love with you. Let's go. Best friends for life. And that's how I treated my customers. And I've been in the industry for 16 years. And I think there's probably a lot of folks that would truly say, like, I've shown up for them. Doesn't matter what segment they've been in our industry. Out of the gates, I just tried to build a relationship. And if they were equally as invested in me, it didn't matter if they're writing 500,000, 5 million. Like, I'm here to support you. Let's go. And so I think for me, I was always out of the gates profiling. If you're invested in me, I'm going to dive into you. So that's how I would qualify a customer. Let's just build a partnership here, right? On the distributor side, when I was a distributor hunting on end users to work with, I was again asking questions out of the gates like, can I get a copy of your event calendar? It'll help me align my support effectively.
mhm.
I was looking for early investment on their side. I was gauging that. If they were invested, let's go. If there was a lack of investment and no relationship value, that's when I would maybe consider moving on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I just end up with this, and maybe I'm thinking more from a trade show perspective because I worked when I was on the supplier side, I worked in a booth for a number of years, and I would see every time certain salespeople just going, I don't know if this person is the right person, or that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some of that I think is generational. I would agree with that.
Yep. Yes, I think so. But for me, whether on the supplier side or the distributor side, it's not just about what someone seems like, it's how invested
Mhm.
you are in me. Like, I'm looking for partnerships here. So for me, I was asking questions up front, and I wish that was happening more often. I wish that folks were
Mhm.
asking more direct questions to gauge each other's investment and build relationships there. But that's not happening. Folks are just kind of overlooking to look for that big, fancy, flashy customer, if that makes sense.
Well,
I see
and
it.
I think the point there that I want to kind of highlight is you keep saying, I'm asking questions.
Yeah.
I'm asking questions. You're not making assumptions.
Yeah.
You're asking
No.
questions to figure out
Right.
who the people are. You're not going, well, we had one customer come into a booth once and he was, dressed down and his jeans were kind of dirty and, he did not look like anybody who had like $5 to his name. But we were nice and we talked to him and he ended up buying a ton of equipment from us and a ton of supplies from us because he was looking for somebody who would give him the time of day and treat him like a person. And as it turned out, he was running a very successful business and was doing very, very well.
I see it too. And I think to myself as you're talking, I'm like, who knows if that guy could have been a referral bank for you and would have referred you to till the end of time. You know, my
Yeah.
dad always used to say, Jenna, look for the referral banks where you can cash in and ask for that referral and introduction at any time. And so that's how I viewed anyone is like, anyone can be a partnership for you. Gauge that
Mhm.
investment up front, ask the right questions. Ooh,
Mhm.
this kind of irks me a little bit. It is untapped potential. It is relationship you're leaving on the table. It is bonding. It is education. It's insights. It's intel. I mean, goodness gracious, get after it. Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to look at this, and that's what's so interesting about what you just said is because sometimes people get so focused in on, like, what is the dollar sign that this person can bring you, but like you said, is this a referral bank for you? Are they gonna connect you to the big buy? Are they gonna be the person who can get you in over here? Like, think bigger. That's asking questions makes you think bigger.
Say it louder. But also, I tell folks that I coach, guys, do everything you can to plant relationship roots at all times. Make those relationships stickier. Ask hard questions, right? Yeah, for sure. When you ask a customer a hard question, you're actually demonstrating your commitment for them. And then you're totally free to gauge their investment in you. Ask that hard question and then decide, is this a good fit or not? That's how folks should qualify. Ask hard questions.
Well, and I love what you just said too, because I think one of the things that a lot of salespeople don't do is take a minute to stop and think whether this person is going to be a good fit with them. I think a lot of salespeople are just like, I need all the people I can get, everybody. And I always advocate sometimes you got to fire the customer or just say, nope, this one isn't for me. This is for maybe somebody else, but it's not for me. And I don't think there's anything, I mean, not to be like all new agey, but you got to have an abundance mindset. You got to think that if this one isn't for me, the next one will be.
You're not losing if you choose to say no. Leverage that,
Thank you.
negotiate, look for the potential out of it. Come to week 4 of field training. We'll talk about it.
So we're getting a little bit of field training right
I
now. I
like it.
love this. This is great. But this is a question I want to ask because it just occurred to me. And I know because I'm part of this industry that there are a lot of women who are amazing salespeople. But I'm wondering, since you've been in sales for quite a while, have you run into people who say, oh, women aren't as good at being salespeople?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that also. Sometimes I hear that women are more aggressive, women are more pushy. I hear that.
Oh,
I hear that sometimes. I see a lot of ghosting, a lot of lack of response with women sales reps. That's a big pain point. They're wanting to get that, they're wanting to display their value. And so that's why I give away an elevator pitch formula. And I give away a lot of confidence boosting exercises in my coaching because women or men doesn't matter, right? I want all of us to have confidence going into every
mhm.
encounter, but specifically I want women to feel super confident in the sales world, asking hard questions and feeling confident that that is the right move. Sometimes we've got to think selfish in sales by thinking about what do I need to move the business forward and then vocalize that. I do need a copy of your event calendar. It's going to help me. You get it, right? Like, I just want everyone out there to feel confident. Asking hard questions has to happen to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If a relationship is there and if a bond is there, that means there's a lot of credibility, a lot of loyalty, and a lot of trust. If that is there, you can ask anything. If you can ask anything, you can sell anything. So when I was on the supplier side at Alpha Broder, that's how I looked at all of my partnerships is I was going to keep my promises, be transparent, show up for you. I'm going to help you make money. I'm going to educate you. I'm going to have your back. We're going to build a bond here. And I'm going to keep re-engaging you and coming back to you. I'm not going to bail on you. And that transferred into my time as a distributor. And now I'm back on the supplier side, kind of sharing that same perspective, right? And even with my own sales cycle that I wrote, it's a 3-stage sales cycle. It's a roadmap to scale relationships. And my sales methodology follows the same way we naturally build relationships with humans. We re-engage, we ask hard questions, we bond, we active listen. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye. We do it again. And so that's what sales reps should just focus on is nurturing your bonds and relationships. And you can't grow a relationship if you don't ask hard questions. No one's going to get married without asking, are you a criminal? You're going to ask hard questions before you jump into a partnership.
Yes.
Ask hard
Well, I
questions.
don't know. I would hope you wouldn't get married without asking, "Are you a criminal?" But maybe
You
it's
never
a little
know.
more meta. Maybe it's you like coconut, which would be a deal breaker for me. But anyway, but I think
Protect
I
yourself.
just
Ask
found
questions.
a tattoo I might get. If you can ask anything, you can sell anything. I like that.
It's true. If you can ask anything, I can sell you anything. If I can ask you for your event calendar and you're a Fortune 500 company, I can now have strategic alignment on what I should be selling you. I can bring up anything at this point.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know what I love so
I
much
love it.
about what you just said is like the human aspect of it. I can't tell you how like turned off I am by how many automated messages I get now and like can't deal with people when I need
Mm.
something. Like what you just said about like this is a human relationship that we're having. Dude, yes. Build the relationship with a person. And I love that. And sometimes that
Mhm.
gets lost in translation. Like Christine said, it becomes transactional. It becomes how can we automate the process, make it faster, just get someone through the chute, get their money, boom, move on. Just so much value to what you just said.
And that, and like one of the things I know we've chatted about a little bit, or one of the questions I know that we discussed is really sales has been a male dominated space. So I will touch on that. I've learned that leaning into being authentic, curiosity, a service minded heart, right? Service mindset, asking hard, direct questions, gauging other folks' investment in me out of the gates, protecting myself, doing my research, prospecting, discovery, qualifying, preparation. For me, that's protected me. And when, it doesn't matter who I'm selling to, right? At the end of the day, I have my systems, and that's how I go to market, and that's how I decide if this is a good fit for me or not. But I
Mhm.
think hard questions, they have to happen.
Yeah.
Bonding, it has to happen.
I love that.
Well, what I like about this, and I don't think my first instinct was to go, well, women are better at building relationships than men, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think some people are better at building relationships than others. And the people who are good at it tend to be the best salespeople because they understand people and not transactions. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They ask the hard questions and listen to the information and come back with like real answers, right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
I hate Christine always gets to do the fun parts of the podcast because she gets to read everybody in and gets like, do the stuff. And then I get to come in and be the bearer of bad news and say we're coming to the close of our episode because who doesn't want to just keep talking? And JQ, your energy is contagious. I'm not a good salesperson. Well, I don't think I'm a good salesperson. I work in content. I'm like that creative kind of thing. But man, do I feel inspired to like go out and kick some ass right now.
Come
Well,
on through
and
the academy.
I would just like to make a note here that the reason that you have to be the bad guy at the end of the podcast is because we know I will not stop talking. So if we don't have you do this, we will still be here 3 hours from now. You know this.
Maybe that's my
But
You
goal
guys
yes,
are
now.
I
awesome.
agree. I
Yeah.
wanted to get some nuggets of wisdom from JQ, and oh my goodness, did we ever? And I love it. But you're right. See, I'm going again. You got to tell me to stop.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what we can do. We might have to stop and end our podcast episode of Threads Just Change this time, but we're going to provide lots of information in the show notes on how people can
Yeah.
connect with you, JQ, and we'll make sure we get that information to all of our listeners so that way the conversations don't have to stop, the hard questions don't have to stop, the listening can continue on beyond this
Yeah.
episode.
I love
Thank you
it.
guys
That
for having me. This is awesome.
Hey everyone, this is Cassie Green, Content Director of Apparelist and Editor at Printing United Alliance.
And this is Christine Shreve, founder of the Women in Garment Decoration Facebook group.
And you're listening to Threads of Change, a new kind of discussion for the printing industry.